Okay, we're trying this again. So, Wacom tablets, for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it seems like sometimes half my features don't work right, and then when I get back to it, um, let's see, oh, you know what, I don't want to hear myself through my recording software there. Okay, so basically half the features seem to be disabled because an update's required. When I try to update, it doesn't detect the tablet. I have to reboot my computer. Then it pops up automatically, says, hey, your Wacom software's out of date. Then I update it. Then I have to reboot again, of course. So sorry about that. I don't even know if the last stream is going to get saved. It might have been, but I don't know. I'll probably delete it. So this is probably entirely out of context. Anyway, let's get started. So I'm basically just going to do a little sketching around. Probably won't be doing this very long. Kind of eating up a lot of my time screwing around with things, just trying to figure out streaming. But let's call this my first stream. The first one that I'm probably going to delete if it's still recorded didn't really work out. I had some issues. So I'm just going to start working on a basic, kind of a basic character design, and I'm using Autodesk Sketchbook here on my Wacom 24 HD tablet with a Wacom pen and everything, and I'm not as experienced with it as I would like to be, and I haven't been doing a lot of sketching for quite a while, so I'm going to be a little bit rusty, but I'm going to just kind of get started here and start trying to design a character. I'm going to kind of base him on the Tin Man. I think I just really like the Tin Man, and I might kind of get into that a little bit later on, but for right now, I just kind of like him, and I like the idea of kind of a reserved strength that the Tin Man might have, and his sort of difficulties with having to stay oiled and all that. Plus, he's kind of a lumberjack, and I like lumberjacks. I got a big beard. I'm into that, and so kind of a cool dude. So I'm just working on a real basic sort of skeletal structure here, get an idea of what kind of shape he might be, kind of a general proportions, and I'm not super excited with that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and kill that layer. Oh, what's going on? Why can't I kill my layer? Oh, now I can. I can't kill the first layer. Okay. Anyway, let's try this again. So I think, he is sort of a lumberjack dude. I'll probably give him a cool axe, maybe more of like a Viking axe, just make it kind of interesting, just a really different take on him. And let's see, to do that, I think maybe what we'll do is change his position here. So I like to kind of start with the rib cage here. I think generally people say you should start with the spine, the line of the spine, get a sense of action or kind of whatever out of that. I say, do what feels good to you as far as how you want to draw something. So what we'll do, we'll just kind of figure this out here as we go. So I'm going to give him some kind of pose. I'm probably going to change this pose up a good bit, but for now, I think this is going to work. So give him sort of an action pose here. Maybe he's in the midst of chasing someone down, using that axe. Maybe he's a hunter. What does the Tin Man do before Dorothy finds him, really? So in the skeleton phase here of just kind of setting up your pose and your proportions, I kind of just like to get sort of a basic idea of how I want to do it, how I want to set it up. Kind of set up a little bit of the perspective here. You can see I got a much larger knee up here than back here, and broaden up his shoulders just a little bit. This is going to be really sloppy. One of the benefits of working digital like this is you can just be really sloppy, because I'm going to totally delete that layer right now. I'm just going to start a new layer, come back, grab this one. I'm just going to really fade it out there, and then we'll get to work on kind of just laying out sort of a basic body. Just kind of start throwing the muscles on, throwing some of that anatomy together, the shape of him. He's going to be kind of a ripped dude from throwing that axe around all day, right? So we'll do that. Of course, he's Tin Man. He's going to be kind of a robot, automaton type of a character, but his basic character is going to be metallic, and he'll be metallic, but I think to get him started, he's going to be based on a human form. So I'm just going to start laying out some of this muscle work and that form of a big, strong lumberjack type of dude here. Get the rib cage on there. So while I'm working on this, maybe a little bit about me. My name's Mike. You probably saw my handle there, Uncle Mike 5012, and I might touch more on that at a later stream as I kind of get more into this. But I've been drawing for quite a while. I started really young. I was blessed to have a live-in grandmother who really encouraged me to come down and visit. She had kind of a mother-in-law suite in our basement, and she just loved to hang out with me, talk with me, and support me, and she always had stuff available for me to do drawings at her counter, and she'd make me peaches and whipped cream in a little cup. And to tell you the truth, I actually don't really like peaches very much, but I always ate them with her. I don't know, that was a thing for her. I don't know if that was more popular during the Depression, or maybe it wasn't, and so she just loved peaches. But she always had canned peaches, and she liked to kind of give me that. I don't know, fruit was healthy, right? So wouldn't really think about all the sugars and nonsense into that back then. So I really liked to draw, and kind of got into that with her, and then I as time went on, just kept drawing, and I really liked comic books. I really wanted to be a comic book artist when I was in junior high, and then got into anime for a little while. Really kind of wasn't my thing, to be honest with you, but that's what my peers were into in high school, and so I kind of got into it and went to art college, Art Institute of Seattle. Went there for a little while, very little while, and I really wasn't ready for it. I'd actually dropped out of high school, and that was a dumb idea. I should have never done that, and just really wasn't ready for college life. And yeah, so but I did drawing, and I enjoyed that. And then I got into games, video games, and kind of wanted to be a game designer. And at the time, that was pretty frowned upon in the Art Institute, and figure out how to lay out this foot a little bit better. Yeah, we'll get back to it. So I dropped out of that too. it's kind of a theme there of my early life, and a lot of regrets about that. But yeah, so just been drawing a long time. I have obviously some classical training from the Art Institute, but mostly self-taught. I really just mostly self-taught myself, and then being into comic books, certainly a foundation, and then getting into anime for a little while kind of gave me a little bit more of a cartoony style as I started to mimic that, and then kind of back again with getting more into video game art and just really getting into that more hard-edged geometry, less smooth lines, and you can probably see a lot of that here as I'm kind of getting going with this sketch. Yeah, so let's do something. Let's pull out that skeleton. We've got kind of our basic outline. Actually, I'm going to come back here and give him his axe. So there's his axe head. Let's throw that out. Like I said, I'm going to do it be a little bit more like a Viking axe, sort of a Viking axe / woodsman axe, fireman's axe. That's just what I'm going to kind of go with for him. And then I'm going to pop up, well, I'm going to again pull my opacity down on that layer so it doesn't distract, and then I'm going to come up here and start thinking about how we're going to define some of these shapes and kind of make them look a little bit more like an automaton. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see. Trying to think of how I want to start that process and how steampunk I want to make them, or how maybe a little bit more comic book, futuristic. Could make him kind of a futuristic type character. Well, I think one thing I do know off the bat is that I kind of want him to have this sort of lumberjack feel, so I think I'm going to actually go ahead and start detailing in a outfit for him. So I'm going to give him a little collar here. I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about drawing a plaid shirt for him. That's going to be kind of difficult to get into all those details in any sort of speedy amount of time, but we'll give him kind of some basics. Pull that down his body. It's going to be kind of bunched up here. And of course he doesn't tuck it because that's lame. Okay, keep those bunches there. And shoulders going here. Some wrinkles in there. So again, this is my first time really streaming or even recording. I was just kind of figuring this all out. Kind of at a place in my life where I need to figure out some ways to make some money using my talents and some of my limited capacity. I'm disabled, and It's been kind of a struggle lately, so this is something that I can kind of do for a short period of time, and something that I enjoy. It helps me relieve some stress and maybe kind of have something to pass on to you folks out there, and actually kind of to my nephews too. I got a couple of nephews who have been getting into drawing, and sometimes I get to go over and sketch with them, but just thought it would be kind of cool if I could do some of this online and record it and make that available to them as a resource, and that way even when I can't get over there and hang out with them directly, I can give them something, and plus it's just a way that they can maybe come back and watch and learn some more. So let's see, this lumberjack is going to have the double pockets here. On a line across the top, kind of more like a hunting shirt. A little bit there. And let's see, just kind of trying to decide if I want to keep it sleeveless or if I want to give him some sleeves. Well, let's not worry about that right now. I think what I'll do is start working on some pants, kind of just let this design kind of figure itself out here as we go. Just hang off there and bunch up, come out over that leg. This is definitely an area in clothing. It's kind of hard to work on this without a model or a reference, but I'll try and figure it out. Probably going to end up reworking this a little bit, but just come in really loose at first. See one in there. These are going to be kind of work pants, reinforced knees, some stitching lines on there. Pockets. And just kind of keeping things really rough right now, and I feel like this is way low. Just kind of gangster there. Okay, pulling it up a little bit. Keep it pretty loose and free form, and then I'll probably end up coming back on a later stream and we'll detail it out, or maybe I'll move on to something else. I might get some ideas of how I want to change them up and do something a little bit differently. Okay. Now, I think now we're kind of at a point where we need to make some decisions about his actual physical construction. Because right now he's just a dude in clothes, so how are we going to make him sort of more of a Tin Man type character? So let's do this. Let's build that shoulder here as more of like a hard, sort of an Iron Man panel. his arm. Build a panel up like this. I think I'm going to make him sort of a futuristic, kind of a semi-solid, kind of that Iron Man or Cable or Colossus type of organic metal type design. Go with that. Make him a little bit more comic book-like in this version. Sort of organic metal lines going on there. And normally I would rotate my canvas to try and get that a little bit better, but I don't have that set up. I haven't really played with it much, and I don't want to goof around too much on the stream here and waste your time while I'm goofing around with software trying to figure out how something should work. So I'll save that for later. I'll do some offline experimenting with that. Armor up his hand there. Okay. Some paneling in there, and then let's start kind of deciding about his face. So I think one thing I want to do, kind of going with that sort of lumberjack theme, so I'm going to give him a bit of a beard. I may change my mind, but I just think that's kind of a fun idea of a robot with a beard. So now it's going to be probably right around there. His nose, eyes. And do as well. Just block in a mustache. It's just going to be kind of robotic here. Some of those lines in there. Generally speaking, as I'm working on something, I usually draw it a few times. It's probably going to be pretty rough here this first time, and I don't know if I'll finish it or not. I might just change my mind about how I want it to look entirely and go a different direction, but get some eyebrows going. And then using a lumberjack, I think I want to give him a hat. Could give him some kind of like a helmet or something. Well, for right now, I'll just go with a kind of a more traditional sort of beanie type hat here. Little tag on it front. Okay. Got that other fist here. Don't really want a fist. It's kind of a cop-out. Let's see if we can try and decide on a way to... No, I don't think I like this hand idea at all. I don't like the position. Let's get my eraser a little bit bigger here, because that's going to waste a lot of time. Okay, so I'm actually going to drop down into this other layer, erase that hand out, drop down into that initial skeletal layer, erase that hand out. This is what I love about digital, so it's completely gone, there's no eraser marks, and we'll just kind of start fresh here. Let's get that back to my pencil. Different. Have them maybe kind of pushing off of something there. Okay, pop back up here. Let's go change that musculature a little bit. I'm going to draw out that bicep a little bit wider, and we got some rotation here. So get that bicep going that direction. Okay. I'm just going to need to probably move that deltoid up a little bit. Just grab onto something there. You know, that hand's actually way too big. Get the digits drawn in there. There we go. Okay, we can turn that line off. Come up here. The line of this shirt isn't correct anymore. I think what I'm going to do is actually give a little bit of a pauldron on this side. Get some asymmetry in there. Figure out connecting that later, but get some of those armor plates going. Again, we've got kind of that organic banded metal. Doesn't really make any logical sense, but seems to be kind of accepted in the world of comic books. Go with it. Okay. Similarly here, let's redo this leg. I don't like that position on it. Foot never really made sense. Probably a good reason to redo it. Yeah, I'm probably getting sort of the end of this stream. I'm kind of wearing out a little bit here. So, like I mentioned, I'm dealing with disability here, and I've got a inflammatory disease in my back that's been getting a lot worse lately, and it's really strange. It just gives me a lot of fatigue issues and a lot of difficulty standing or sitting for very long. Just even working with my hands here, my fingers are kind of starting to cramp up a little bit. So that's okay. We're gonna soldier on here, but just have to kind of slow down a little bit. So there we go. So we'll give him that. Give him a little bit of flex because his toe's going to be flexing there, but not too much because he's going to have some sort of big work boots on or something. Okay, now let's redo that pant leg. My anatomy is probably a little bit off in that leg. Not super happy with that, but having the work boot on and the pants is really kind of going to take care of that for me, so I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. Okay, get that reinforced knee back on there. There we go. I'm going to actually go ahead. This axe is going to cover this up. I'm going to do it on a separate layer. Goof around with that a little bit more, and I don't know exactly what shape I'll end up with, so I'm going to go ahead and detail out this pant leg a little bit more. There we go. Okay. I'm going to give him sort of a Fallout 4 inspired pauldron going on here. At this point I can turn off that little under layer there. It's probably going to have some snaps going on it. It's going to come across like so. Probably put some sort of a buckle in here. I think I'm just going to do a ring. And draw it in underneath. That's going to be tighter up against his body there, creating some disruption in the clothing there. Okay, he's got his pockets. Okay, so we've got kind of a basic layout here. give him a little bit of a nose. It's kind of a prominent feature of the Tin Man, right? He's got that pointy cone nose in the old movie. So we'll give him that nose going on there. And some sort of Iron Man eye sockets. Oh, that really makes his eyes look goofy. Let's get rid of that. I think we'll actually zoom in and detail that out much smaller. Get a little bit better detail going because I'm working with a pretty broad stroke here. Okay, let's pull up another layer. And kind of fill in the little stump that he's kind of sitting on. Just give it some position here. His legs, his feet are on the ground. Just kind of try and give him some presence of where he's at. Just really minor. I don't know. Maybe we'll go back and detail that out too. It just depends. I don't know if I'm gonna keep this. Maybe try and exaggerate some of the position a little bit more and redo it, or continue from where we're at. Kind of decide on that as we go, but right now I think this will do. I may want to tuck his pants into those boots rather than keep them there like that. I don't know. We'll go back and decide later. So yeah, I think I'm happy where I'm at for a basic sketch. We kind of got started, and I'm kind of out of steam here, so we'll go ahead and cut the stream here. And if you liked it, I hope you tune in next time. Right now I'm on. It's 5 o'clock here Mountain Time in Colorado, and I probably will be starting to do these a little bit later, kind of maybe starting about now rather than finishing now. I'd like to start a little bit later. I think that'll allow more people to take advantage, maybe be home from work and do these. But some of the difficulties I have, it's going to be hard to be really consistent with that. So I apologize for that now, and we'll kind of figure that out as we go, see what works for me, what works for you, and just kind of keep going. And I think I've got it set up here so that it's recording this as well, so that you can go back and watch it anytime. So if you wanted to come back and hang out with me, you know, when I'm offline, hopefully you'll be able to do that from my channel page. And I've got a lot to learn about streaming, and I'm kind of working with this. I know a lot of folks use Twitch here for streaming other stuff like video games, and definitely something that I'm into is playing video games, but I probably won't be streaming a lot of game content. I think it'll primarily be artwork, and we're going to vary it quite a bit. We're going to be working on just all kinds of stuff. I like to think of this as sort of a learn-along experience. There's a lot of things that I do that I think I'm probably pretty good at, and there's a lot of things that I really am not very good at all, and a lot to learn. Right now I'm working in Sketchbook just because it's really easy to get into it, get going, start drawing something right away. The brushes and pencils and all of that are very familiar and easy to work with, just like working with paper. I really like that, but I'll probably start working more in Photoshop, especially as we get into doing some more finish work. But I really don't know. You know, like that could change. I might end up wanting to stick with Sketchbook and just really focus more on that, and it's certainly a possibility. We'll just kind of figure out what works, and I don't really know what works. I've done a lot of design work more recently, a lot of Adobe Illustrator, and working with line work, and not a lot of manual drawing, and I might show some of that as we go. But as far as actually just really rendering out an image on the computer, something that I really want to do more of, something I really like. I've done some stuff in the past with Sketchbook and a little bit with Photoshop that I've really enjoyed. The Tin Man concept here is actually something that I had explored before. Maybe I'll post that image somehow. I'm not sure how to do that. Maybe we'll just pull it up sometime and look at it maybe next time we work on this concept here. But I like to kind of consider myself more of a designer than a really artsy person. I'm not typically into really expressing a lot of emotion through my art. It probably would be good for me to kind of get into that, do a little more of that, and maybe we'll go there at some point. But generally speaking, I kind of am a pretty logical person, and I like to design something out. I like to figure out, you know, what's going to work and sort of make sense, and kind of come up with a reality where something really makes sense. And it sort of limits me a little bit. I really appreciate really fantastical artwork and just really out there stuff. I love the imagination that goes into that, and that's something that I'd like to get a little more of in my life at some point. But also, I just really like to design something out that has some sort of presence, some real presence, something that's kind of believable, you know, and get into that. So I kind of consider myself more of a designer from that perspective, because I'm thinking about not just how to draw something, but really, you know, how would it work? How would it feel? As we get into costume design, you know, how's it going to function? How is there going to be give in that pauldron, or in those knee pads or boots if I'm building a crazy Iron Man costume or whatever? That's something that I struggle with more, because I really want to make it look functional and real. But sometimes, you know, I like to say that I'm doing something more comic booky, and that helps me kind of give myself a little more license to just goof around and make it work. So I think for our Tin Man concept here initially, we've got kind of a BA Tin Man character. He's ripped. He's going to run through the woods. He's kind of a little bit blue collar with his collared shirt and work pants and work boots, and a little bit sci-fi, this armor and metal arms, kind of cyborgy. And, you know, he's got his armor on. He's got his pauldron up there, and he's going to have more of a combat type axe than a traditional woods axe. So we're starting to kind of learn who he is, and that's also kind of what I mean by a learn along experience. Generally, when I'm drawing something, I'm designing something, especially character design, I'm just kind of trying to figure it out as I go, and especially in the early stages, we're kind of learning who that character is as we work on him, and as we kind of make decisions. Sort of like, you know, like Bob Ross. If you ever watched that on PBS, certainly that was something that I used to love to veg out to when I was young. It's Bob Ross, and I just love the way that he kind of comes up with a scene, and he just seems like he's just figuring it out as he goes, and just kind of letting it happen. As much as he's controlling it, he's kind of experiencing it at the same time. So that's kind of a direction that I usually bring to something. I have an idea of what I want to do, and start playing around and rendering it out, and then it kind of changes, and gets a little different than I expected, and that's kind of fun. You kind of discover it as you go, and that's one thing I really love about artwork and drawing, and I think something that I've always really liked about drawing is kind of getting to be the authority and create whatever I want to create, but at the same time explore around, play with some different ideas of how to lay out some armor or how something might work, or weapon designs and all kinds of things, and just kind of let it come together and erase things that don't work and keep things that do, and reposition and move, and just kind of see what comes of it. That's what I really enjoy. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me here. I'm going a little bit longer than I should, so I'm gonna get out of here and get some rest and hang out a little bit with some friends, I think, online later, playing some games on Xbox, and maybe I'll get some ideas there of some inspiration of things I might want to do with this character. Kind of rework that a little bit. You know, I got the stream up on my other screen here, and looking at this character, I'm realizing that the perspective is a little bit weird. I've got my screen tilted, and you know, as I look at it straight on, I'm not super happy with how I laid that out. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that a little bit better. Maybe I'll just squish it down a little bit, but it doesn't quite look like what I'm feeling like it looks like as I've been drawing it. So I think more than likely I'm probably going to scrap this sketch and we'll start over next time. We'll save it maybe as some inspiration, and we've got some ideas going of kind of how we want to do this, but I want to make some changes to him as well, and I'm going to think some more about sort of his backstory, what's going on with the Tin Man that I'm creating here as sort of this woodsman character. He's maybe sort of a hunter, or maybe he's just a worker. Maybe he's sort of a lawman or something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it a little while, and we'll get back to the next stream, and maybe we'll work on that, or you know, maybe I'll just be on an entirely different kick and we'll do something else entirely. But thanks again for hanging out with me here, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I know we talked a little bit along the way about what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about as I'm drawing it, but didn't really focus a lot on instructional content here as to how to go about drawing something. So that might be something that we can work on a little bit more in the future, if that's something interesting. And I think a lot of the time, though, I'm probably just going to be drawing and talking, and then you can just follow along and ask questions. I don't think we had anybody live in the stream here today, so there wasn't really any options for interaction, but as the stream kind of builds up and we'll get a few folks participating, then maybe we'll get some feedback from you folks that are watching, and kind of come up with some ideas of what to draw and how to do things as we go. And that could be really interesting to bring in some of your thoughts on the character, and we can kind of figure that out and take some ideas and make that happen. So thanks again. Again, my name's Mike, and I really appreciate you taking some time with me today. And I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. So have a wonderful evening, and I should be streaming again sometime. I'm going to try and really make sure that it happens later this week. Try and do maybe 2 of these a week if I can. So yeah, that's it. Have a great day.